some notable performances, some definite headline manias, as well as some big moves, holdouts, and as we get closer and closer to the end of preseason, I want to hear your 53 roster projections, and we're going to and to conclude, we're going to talk about the 5 best and worst linebacker groups. This, and it's all coming now on Ramblin Matt's Football Podcast. All right, so of course, Week 2 was wrapped up on Monday night with the Ravens Colts game. There weren't a lot of notable things. I'm going to go ahead and probably give some performances as it goes on. But there was one thing that definitely catched my eye during Week 2. It was during the Vikings and Jaguars game. If you know what you probably know what I'm talking about before I'm even going to finish. And of course, it was this sack that was called for a roughing the passer penalty. So apparently this is now going to be the new roughing the passer penalty. I watched that tape so many times to try and make sure, is this really roughing the passer? Is this really what we're seeing? And of course, it doesn't look like it. It looks like a clean tackle. He gets a good hit on him. He didn't pop him. He didn't spike him to the ground. I mean, sure, maybe a helmet hit, but that's even a stretch. And of course, it goes back to what I said on the last podcast. Is this just a preseason thing, or is this just something or is this something that we got to expect from now on? Because, oh boy, if that's what we're going to expect from now on, football is going to die. And it could be one of the lowest viewing seasons in NFL, in the history of the NFL. Could be. And of course, when I was looking at some of these performances, I took a good notice at some of these wide receivers, at these rookie wide receivers, and there were a few, it was probably like 8 of them that really did well. 9 of them, I'm going to go ahead and mention the other one. I'll mention them soon. One of them is definitely the wide receiver from the Redskins. I think it's Sims, I want to say. The reason why I mentioned is because there was this one play, it was against the Jets, against Sam Darnold's Jets, and what he did was, this was unfortunately called back due to a illegal formation play, but the quarterback, I think it was McCoy at the time, throws the ball, and he makes this great body adjustment catch for a touchdown. It was supposed to be like a 12-yard touchdown. It was very impressive, but of course, it was called back for a penalty, but he wasn't the only wide receiver that did shine shining so far in preseason. One of them is 3rd-round rookie Traquan Smith at New Orleans. While he hasn't, really flashed, like, getting touchdowns left and right, or kind of like a Michael Thomas kind of thing, Traquan has definitely done very well, been a solid, steady wide receiver, just because coming to draft, a lot of thought, okay, he's just probably going to be a deep threat, but the way he's performing, he's making great making great catches away from his body catches, showing some good acceleration, even getting some yak yardage. He'll be a tough guy to really put on the bench, and I think he could definitely make a push for more playing time. I mean, he does add some nice run blocking ability. He has very good speed. I think he ran like a 4.4 even in his pro day at 6'2", 210, and this could be the 1-2 combination that they could definitely need. Another wide receiver was second round draft pick for the Arizona Cardinals, Christian Kirk. Kirk had a very good game against the New Orleans Saints, including catching a touchdown pass. He's a good speedy slot wide receiver. And to me, I think he's a lot better than where he was drafted. I I thought he was kind of this late first round pick, but I think the Cardinals are very happy that he did fall to him. He's been so far a very reliable weapon to pair up with Larry Fitzgerald, and definitely for the future, that is Josh Rosen. I'm very excited to see him play. I think he's probably going to get more playing time, probably be the number 2 wide receiver. And of course, his teammate Chad Williams also played very well. So that's very promising for this team because I think Larry Fitzgerald was their only real good wide receiver. They let Floyd go. They let John Brown go over the past 3 years. So this is definitely nice and refreshing. And of course, the only first-round draft pick wide receiver, Calvin Ridley, has also been doing very well. He's likely to be the number 2 wide receiver, surpassing Mohamed Sanu and play with Julio Jones. He shows why he's one of the best why he was one of the best wide receivers in the draft. He showed to have great speed, definitely get some good yak yards. He had a very good game going against the Kansas City Chiefs. It was very, very enthusiastic to say the least. And another wide receiver, which I knew he was going to be very good, and I think Dallas knew too, is Michael Gallup, a third-round wide receiver from Colorado State. He has done very well. I think in his first game he was a touchdown machine. From what I've seen on Twitter, I think Adam Rang tweeted it. I could be incorrect, but whoever did. And especially, with no real number 1 and kind of a bunch of other guys, really trying to fight for being Prescott's main wide receiver, it's definitely it's definitely something to behold. It's really something to behold for this team. If he can take the main job, which is essentially up for grabs between Terrence Williams, Cole Beasley, and Alan Hearns, this will be very satisfying for this team because I think he's better than does Brian Gallup. And while they're looking for number 1 wide receivers, so are the Niners. And I wouldn't say he's probably number 1 title yet, but he's definitely a good weapon to build around Garoppolo. That being the man from Washington, Dante Pettis, who's done very well. He's shown to be a very good deep threat. I think he's probably a good number 2, not necessarily number 1. I think they need, kind of a Julio, like I said, kind of a Julio Jones style, probably someone who has a big body, can make the tough catches inside, and let Pettis, kind of stretch the field and even, scare the offenses. But it's very promising for him. I think he'll work well with Pierre Garçon for whatever time they have left, for how much time he has left in the NFL. And he's definitely a nice weapon. And another one is Anthony Miller, 3rd-round pick from Memphis in Chicago. Miller right now probably has the number 2 job all but right there. I think it's his to lose. He'll probably get a lot of snaps. The question is, how many passing plays are they going to run, and how Trubisky's evolved it. How much he's evolved from last season to this season. And I think Anthony Miller will definitely help him. He's a very good slot wide receiver with some good speed. He made a very nice catch against Denver where he went up and snatched the ball out of the air. That's always promising. I think it was from a throw from Chase Daniel. I could be wrong. But it was a very nice catch, to say the least. I was very impressed. And of course, the final wide receiver is the one you've probably been waiting for quite a while. It is James Washington in Pittsburgh. When they got rid of Martavis, they were kind of wondering, okay, we'll see who can be the 3 wide receiver. And James Washington stepped in and has had it ever since he put on the pads. He has been a very dangerous receiver. A lot of them thought he was going to be pretty one-note and probably wasn't going to play that well. But man, oh man, is he doing well. I think some of it does help that his teammate Mason Rudolph is still throwing it to him. Promising. And Washington has done very well. He's still a very good deep threat, a very good slot. helping in the red zone a little bit, and it's very promising. They have their 3-set wide receiver now with Brown, Smith, Schuster, and Washington. It is definitely something to behold. And of course, there were some other nice performances to go around. I think one of them that really did impress me was Chiefs quarterback Pat Mahomes, particularly on one throw towards the end of the half. It showed a strong arm, and he does have some good accuracy to boot. It's very promising. I'm sorry. There was this one throw he threw to Tyreek Hill, basically threw it over every defender to where only Tyreek can catch it, and of course Tyreek has that dangerous speed. Ooh boy, it was a very impressive throw. Some other quarterbacks that did well, of course, was the Giants' Davis Webb. He did very well. It was 14 of 20 for a $140 to go with a touchdown. Another quarterback I also think did very well, of course, was Josh Rosen. He rebounded nicely. I thought Chase Daniel did pretty well in the court, but I'm gonna break down guys like, you'll know who I'm talking about later. I'm not gonna spoil it. And there's one last notable performance I'm going to give before moving on, because the next one I'm probably going to take a bit, is the Packers secondary, especially Josh Jackson, the second-round pick. He did very well, including getting a pick 6 against Joshua Dobbs. It's all these performances have done very well, and it's very good to see all these teams start getting the kind of players that they need. There were some down performances. I think I'm going to go ahead and give one to Lee Raven Clark, who allowed a pretty bad sack to Terrell Suggs. I know Costanzo wasn't in the game, but you gotta protect your quarterback. He's coming back. Don't send him back to the injury table. Come on, guys. There was another bad performance. The Saints' backup quarterbacks in general, especially Taysom Hill and Tom Savage, they had some poor games. Especially Taysom Hill, who in 6 series had 2 picks, 2 fumbles lost, a field goal, and a punt. That's not going to get you the job. I'm sorry, that will not get you the job. And of course, there were a few other bad performances. Probably Matt Castle, 6-9 for 42 yards and a touchdown. Paxton Lynch had a bad game. Of course. And of course, there were some other notable bad performances, but kind of running out of time. So it's time to move on, especially with the mania that is going on, and I am just seeing it everywhere. That being Teddy Bridgewater. Bridgewater has done well so far in preseason. Has 2 touchdowns and an interception. Also I think he's thrown for almost 300 yards in two games. And everywhere I look on Twitter, it's about, is Teddy Bridgewater ready to be a franchise quarterback once again? Which teams to trade for Bridgewater, etc. What would you give for Bridgewater? Oh boy. And I don't think the Jets are going to cut Teddy Bridgewater anymore. I think they were just kicking the tires and letting him really try and develop, but it's probably not going to happen. They're probably going to hold on to him and use him for like a team, say like the Dolphins, that say Tannehill doesn't do well and they don't want to go an entire season with Brock Osweiler as their quarterback. I think that will be a reason why they'll hold on to him. And there's no reason to cut him. I mean, if he was struggling bad to the point where even probably a kicker was being a better quarterback than him, then that would be telling. But to everyone that says he's a franchise quarterback, how much are you taking away from just 2 preseason games? Keep in mind, ever since his injury, he's played a few snaps in the regular season, and he looked rusty and really off. But in the preseason, he's going against primarily against 2s and 3s, especially in the Redskins game. He was the second quarterback, and he was going against a mixture of 2s and 3s. So I'm not taking too much out of him. I mean, I'm glad he's doing better, but this is a guy I would I would just take a break from and not really go all out and say, wow, this is someone that we need to get. Just keep, or we need to trade for him right now. No. Because here's the thing. When 2019 hits, the Jets aren't going to re-sign him. They got other problems. They got other problems to figure out, like improving their offensive line, getting more defensive studs, etc., etc. They don't need They don't need Bridgewater. They have their quarterback of the future in Sam Darnold. And I know I saw this really, really dumb tweet where someone said that the Jets should trade Sam Darnold away, see what kind of things they can get so they can start Bridgewater. Really? What planet? What kind of assness is this? What kind of assness is that when you trade away a guy, you trade away not only your first round pick but multiple picks for? Just dumb, and nothing should be harped on. But he's not the only one. But of course, Bridgewater's not the only one getting major attention. Chad Kelly, and of course, his good performance means that Denver fans were they couldn't get a grin off their face until they lost. But they were very enthusiastic about Kelly. One thing I did notice about Kelly, I did see more of his throws, all of his throws. One thing is that he's got to put some air onto the ball. He's doing what Cam Newton did. Well, is that he throws the ball as hard as he can, trying to show off his arm strength, basically telling everyone, hey, I got a strong arm. Watch me break my receiver's fingers. And I want to see him put more of an arc to the ball and really put some air into it, because he's got good ball placement. He's not like Taysom Hill where he has bad ball placement. It's really stemming from him not really putting an arc on the ball. But he does need to put it a little better. Try and use his strength to try and put a little trying to make it go a little higher in the air, and just having that right touch, not the break your fingers routine, nothing like that. And of course, with Chad Kelly playing so well, there's going to be tons of different fans probably holding up signs that saying "Start Kelly, bench Keenum," and I think even Elway is starting to get kind of relieved with Chad Kelly doing pretty well. He has 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and almost and over 200 yards passing in 2 preseason games. Because after what happened, what's happening with Paxton Lynch, I mean, at this rate, Paxton's not making the team. He's getting cut, and God knows if he'll be sought after by another team. But this is something that he's kind of getting relief in. This was Mr. Irrelevant of 2017, and seeing him play well is definitely relieving. I don't know if he's franchise ready yet. I think he still has some things he needs to tweak out. Like I think it's just little mechanics. I'm hoping Keenum can help him, because this is a guy who really needs it, and I'm hoping. Who really needs it. I think he can be a starting quarterback. I mean, probably not elite level, or even, probably not elite, all pro, barely Pro Bowl, but probably like, a very above average starter. He'll be good enough, probably at best, maybe a Pro Bowl snub level. You know what I mean? He'll do. And I think, with the young wide receiver core he has to work with, this is a team. This will be a quarterback who will do very, very well. And to continue on with quarterbacks, I like taking a look at these rookie quarterback standings, seeing, which one's probably going to start. And it looks like probably the closest one that will start is Bills quarterback Josh Allen, especially with the injury to A.J. McCarron, who received a hairline fracture in his collarbone. It's probably going to be Josh Allen for a while, because he's making good decisions. He just needs to work on that little accuracy thing. Just accuracy. I mean, it's Not, I mean, it's not like it's that major, is it? Being ironic. So, yeah, so Josh Allen's probably going to most likely start week 1. He was the 3rd quarterback taken in the draft. And, oh boy. And I think the quarterback that's probably least likely to start is definitely Lamar Jackson. He had an off game against the Colts. He even had an off game against, Baltimore and I'm sorry, against Chicago. Even what happened in that really first week of preseason. I don't know if it's more the receiver problem. I don't know if it's the offensive line, but he just really hasn't been playing. He really hasn't been doing all too well for my liking. Throwing under 50%, kind of making more with his legs. He's more of your stereotypical run first quarterback. He's eventually got to learn. He's got to learn how to be more of a drop back passer, more of a pocket presence passer. Learning to go through your reads and run when you have to, not run when you want to. Don't be the 1-2 read and then bail, because teams are going to figure you out and you're going to wash out very quickly and probably be at best a journeyman backup, kind of like how RG3 is now. And I think another one least likely to start is probably Baker Mayfield, and I don't think it's a talent problem because he's doing very well. It looks like he's doing very well. The problem is it's just that the guy starting him is doing very well too, Tyrod Taylor. They want to have Mayfield sit on the bench for a season and then eventually play him when he's seasoned, even though probably the one guy you have is seasoning him in. Damn, I should have gotten HBO and watch Hard Knocks because I heard it's pretty exciting, especially with, the Browns being the Browns. But back to Mayfield, he's probably not going to start because let's face it, Tyrod Taylor essentially either has to have his typical games where he's throwing for under 100 yards and barely gets a touchdown, or he gets hurt. Which could be an eventuality for this guy. Maybe. Just maybe. And then there's the fate of the other 2 quarterbacks, Rosen and Darnold. With Darnold, it's both of them are basically wait and see moments. I think because the guys ahead of him are very solid, while Bradford's good. It's just that with Bradford, you're wondering, okay, when's his bone going to snap in half? Which will get hurt? Where will he get hurt? Will he hurt his collarbone? Will he hurt his knee? Will he hurt his hand? Will he get a paper cut and get staph infection? Etc., etc. Because that's all what's waiting for Rosen. Is the guy in front of me going to miss a ton of time? And when it comes to Darnold, it's going to be when they think he's ready. Because sitting ahead of him is Josh McCown, and he's more of a seat warmer. He's going to keep the starter seat warm for you, and eventually he expects someone to take him over. I've rarely seen him start an entire season. If he has to start an entire season, you're in tough shape. I can't even remember the last time he did start an entire season. That's how it is. So yeah, as soon as they said, okay, we had enough of McCown, go in Darnold, because he's going to be the next quarterback. It's not going to be Bridgewater. He's just going to be the play. He's probably going to be inactive for most of the games. Mostly uses tray bait when they want to get something, when they want to ship him off to some other quarterback needy team. And that's probably it. I mean, there's a few other quarterbacks, but a lot of them are just going to be placeholder or just going to be bench warmers. They're not really going to do much. I don't really see any late round quarterback, any mid round or late round quarterback like Mason Rudolph, Luke Falk. I don't see them doing anything. And there's one last thing I want to say about Bridgewater. To all the teams that you think are going to get him. I mean, like Miami Dolphins. Yeah, because Ryan Tannehill hasn't played in over a year, so let's get another quarterback who also hasn't played in over a year. Smart, huh? Yeah, I make good decisions. I make well decisions. Yeah. And just as we have had it, we've had some free agent moves. We have some free agent moves worth talking about. Of course, one of them being George Iloka, who on Monday was released from Cincinnati. Now joins Minnesota and his former defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer. I think on a 1-year deal. I know a couple teams were hunting for him, but Minnesota, the rich get richer now. And of course, a couple running back releases, both of them named West. One of them, Terrence West, was released from the Saints yesterday, and earlier today, Charkandrick West was surprisingly released by the Chiefs. And the Browns also get some good news now because Josh Gordon is back with the team. He reported back after dealing with some personal issues. And I know this was a late signing that happened a couple weeks ago. But Kenny Vaccaro did sign with the Titans on a 1-year deal after Jonathan Cyprien was lost for season. I think he had a knee injury. And just as the Browns got Josh Gordon back, Des Bryant did go visit with the Cleveland Browns to talk about something. There's no deal imminent yet. They have no idea if they want him, if they do want him on the team. But I think with Josh Gordon back, it's probably leaning towards no because they weren't sure where Gordon's going to go. And, with guys like Rashid Higgins, who's stepping up well as well, you have the young wide receiver Antonio Callaway. I don't think Des Bryant's really needed more. I think, like I've said this multiple times, Des Bryant should go to Indianapolis. They really need someone of his caliber. They need someone to play on the other side, and Des is not a bad fit for there. And unfortunately, we also had 2 players retired today. Victor Cruz announced his retirement. Ever since his horrible leg injury, I think he suffered back in 2015. He really hasn't been the same player. He lost some speed, and it was a real shame to watch his career kind of fizzle like that. He was a very exciting wide receiver in 2011, had some good years until that horrible knee injury, and he just wasn't ever the same. It was very disappointing. See that go to. And another one was edge rusher Charles Johnson, former Panthers edge rusher was released because he just wasn't the same player. Age started to catch up. He's been with the Panthers since 2007. He hasn't signed with another team. I don't think he's even gotten a visit or two. And he officially announced his retirement earlier today. Another edge rusher signing that happened was Eric Walden, who went to Seattle, probably to be an edge rusher. They're still trying to fill up the voids that was left after Cliff Averill retired, as well as trading away Michael Bennett. And they also had to deal with some injuries that have happened. They don't want to put Rasheem Green in just yet. They kind of want to develop him a bit. And they also had a visit with Junior Gillette. He visited not only Seattle, but he also visited the Los Angeles Rams, who were really impressed. Who were kind of impressed, but it looks like they are not going to sign him based on a couple reports that have been released. Hopefully he can find a team in. Gillette just really hasn't been the same since 2 Achilles tendon tears. He's definitely lost some speed, lost some explosiveness. I mean, you look at the highlights from 2013 compared to 2017. He's clearly lost a step as well as some explosiveness. And guess what, guys? He's back. That's right. Adrian Peterson now has a new home, signing a vet minimum deal with the Washington Redskins. The Redskins needed to find a new running back after Darius Guice tore his ACL in the preseason game. Samaje Perine and Rob Kelly have done fine, but they want to get good depth. Surprised he didn't sign someone like Jamal Charles, who could add a more receiving option, but they went with AP, and there's no real clear indication if he will start or not. And to finish up with all the free agent moves, there were 3 guys who were recently released. Right tackle Malik Watson was released from Denver. It was kind of telling once they brought in Jared Valdir from free agency. It all signed, but it basically set the fate for Watson, and of course the Denver Broncos had to eat a big cap hit. And last but 2 kickers were released. Carlos Santos was recently released by the New York Jets, and Kai Forbath lost the kicker battle to the rookie kicker in Minnesota. He is now currently searching for home. I think he'll get a couple visits. So yeah. And while all those free agent signings have happened, there are 3 major holdouts still happening. And of course, they're all major defensive players. Khalil Mack, Aaron Donald, and Earl Thomas with their holdouts. Mack is currently holding out for a new contract with the Oakland Raiders. Well, the now Oakland Raiders until they move to Las Vegas next season. And so far, he hasn't made any contact with the team. He hasn't talked. And there's nothing going on. In fact, some of it could be a little beef with Gruden, but I'm not willing to say much. A couple teams have called the Raiders about Mack. So far, only 2 teams have been confirmed, being the New York Jets and the Green Bay Packers. But the Raiders have reassured that they are not moving away from Mack, that they will not be trading away Mack. And so far, he has missed both preseason games during his holdout. Who knows how long this holdout is going to be? And if I'm Gruden or in the Raiders, I do not want Khalil Mack missing week 1. I think it'll be an utter disaster, and it will start off this season on the worst foot possible. It's really going to be interesting to see what happens with Khalil Mack. I really did like him. I like watching him. He was one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, if not the best. And it's a real wonder. I mean, is really the Mark Davis just playing cheapskate? Is he pulling the Dan Snyder route where he's trying to see if he can get him for as cheap as possible? You're gonna lose this battle, dude. Pay the man. Just pay him. Yeah. Another player who is holding out from the team is currently Aaron Donald, looking for a new contract. However, Aaron Donald is definitely making progress. They're making progress with his contract. Of course, the Rams have basically extended everyone from Gurley to Cooks, even a right tackle, Rob Hattenstein, who got a 4-year deal of $32.5 million. But now it's time for Aaron Donald, and so far, based on reports that have come out between Donald and the Rams, they're making significant progress. They're looking at a very good deal. Maybe that's what's probably the whole also with the Raiders and Mack. They're probably looking to see how much Donald's making, seeing they're both pass rushing defensive linemen, and they're also the face of the franchise too. I think Donald's probably going to earn close to $20 million, maybe $18 million. But from what I heard, there's significant progress being made. I think Donald has a good chance of playing in week 1, even if he doesn't get his extension. But based on the progress the Rams are making, I think he will, in all probability, get his extension. And last but not least, of course, you got Earl Thomas. And he's not really holding out for a new contract. He's actually holding out to be traded. Yeah, that's right. He wants to be traded away from Seattle. He wants out. He's tired of Pete Carroll. The team's in rebuild mode. He wants out. Now, in all probability, Earl Thomas is most likely going to, I think he is going to go to Dallas. I know a couple other teams have probably called about it, like the Raiders, but I honestly think he's going to go to Dallas, and it's going to happen before the trade deadline happens. If Earl Thomas doesn't get traded, this will be completely shocking, because I think he really will get traded. Everyone essentially expects, Dallas to be the suitor, and some good reason and some good reason. And that's it with the holdouts. And like I said, we're closing towards the end of preseason. We got some games tomorrow, Friday and Saturday, and a couple games Sunday. And then there is August 30th, where it's just going to be an avalanche of games, a final preseason game where all the roster hopefuls have to make their last standing impression before they get the call whether or not they're going to make the team or get cut. So, based on your favorite teams, who do you think is going to be the final 53? Who do you think, and also who do you think is going to be the surprise cuts? I will be doing, something after this. I might even do a special to probably look at, all these players getting early releases. All these players getting early releases, etc., etc. Probably some of the surprise cuts and even practice squad watch. Because it's really going to be pretty interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting to see, what these final 53 the final 53 for all 32 looks like. In all seriousness, I do hate the freaking inactive list. I think it's not only worthless, but it really stymies what a coach wants to do. Honestly, the inactive list shouldn't come in unless you have an injured player, and only injured players can go on it, etc., etc. But that's just me. And of course, since I'm doing this pretty quickly, I'm only at 36 and a half minutes, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up pretty quickly. Next, I'm gonna try and do it a little longer. And of course, in conclusion, I'm gonna do something a little different. I mean, normally the last two I did with wide receivers and DBs, I did the 5 worst and I only did the 5 worst, but this time I'm probably gonna do the 5 best as well when it comes to the linebackers, because watching these definitely made me want to see what was about with these linebackers. And here we go. Number 5, the 5th worst linebacking core to me is the Miami Dolphins. Right now they have one notable linebacker being Kiko Alonso. They have a couple other players they want to try out. They have Raekwon McMillan, who's coming off a torn ACL. They do have a rookie in Jerome Baker, but this is still a pretty weak linebacking core. They're trying to up the athleticism of it, and yeah, it's not just about athleticism; it's also about ability. And the sad fact is that there's just not enough ability. I don't really see too much from this Miami linebackers. It does look incredibly weak in comparison to all the others. At number 4, I have the New York Giants. Yes, I know they traded for Alec Ogletree, but from what I'm hearing, he's struggling in pass coverage. And oof. That's not a good sign. It's what the linebackers have been kind of at best mediocre. With like B.J. Goodson, I think a couple other linebackers, but but there's no real. But the one guy that are hoping to be the real main star, the main stud, Alec Ogletree, he is struggling. This is definitely not what they want. This is definitely something they did not want out of all this. They were hoping him to be, at least close to a three down linebacker, but it's not shown. At number 3, you have the LA Rams. The only good linebacker that's even worth mentioning is Mark Barron, and he's more of that safety linebacker, kind of like how Deone Buchanan is. However, I think Buchanan is 2 levels above what Mark Barron is. I knew this was going to be a big weakness once they traded away Ogletree, and once they traded away that first round pick to get Cooks, that's when all the problems started. That was pretty dumb. I gotta admit, that was a pretty dumb move when they did that. And they really needed a good linebacker. I guess they thought, okay, we're probably not going to get this stud or whatsoever, so might as well do with what we got in. I don't think they have a lot of good players on that team. At number 2, I have the Oakland Raiders. Now, keep in mind, I'm not counting Khalil Mack. I count him more as an edge rusher, and boy, oh boy. Right now, their best linebacker, a 36-year-old Derek Johnson. Now linebackers, I knew were very very weak. I know they also signed Tahir Whitehead, but who knows? I haven't heard much about him. I mean, I've heard much about Whitehead. I can't tell if that's good or bad, but hopefully he'll do well in Gruden's uh, cover two system. But yeah, the addition of Derek Johnson does hurt. He's not the same player that he once was. This is still a pretty problematic linebacker system. And before we get to number one, I have some dishonorable mentions. The New Orleans Saints, yeah, they did sign Davis, but the problem is you either got off injured linebackers like Klein and Anzalone, or you just and the rest of them are kind of mediocre like Craig Robertson and Manti Te'o. They're both okay, but I didn't put them in. I didn't put them on a list because I thought they were just slightly better than the five teams I've mentioned. The other teams, the Dallas Cowboys. I know they drafted Leighton Vander Esch, but I don't count linebackers, I don't count rookies because I have no idea how good they're going to be. I don't know what kind of play level they'll be at. And I do like Sean Lee. He's a very good linebacker, but he's oft injured. And as soon as he leaves the field to go on a trainer's table, that defense falls apart. But like I said, Sean Lee's talent was enough to put him in the Cowboys in it. Sean Lee's good enough to hold the Cowboys, but his injuries at least put him in a dishonorable mention. And I think Jalen Smith is okay. I think he's still trying to continue getting back to what he was before pre-injury, and I think he's almost there. If he has a very good season, really good season where he's more explosive, a very good sideline back like how he was in Notre Dame, I think that would lift him off the dishonorable mention list. I also got to go with the Lions. It's pretty mixed to say. Jared Davis, I heard, is doing a little better, but I want to see more of it. They're also hoping Jalen Reeves-Maybin does pretty well. I think they got a couple other linebackers that they had, but from what I saw, from what I'm hearing, yeah, they're not doing too hot. It's kind of mediocre at best. Here, I'm just gonna take a look at this team real quick. Oh boy, yeah, like I was a big fan of Jared Davis, and I think they got another. They did bring in a couple linebackers like Christian Jones and Devon Kennard, but those guys are okay, but I think they'll do a little better. I also did mention in New York. Also, give a dishonorable mention to the New York Jets. Losing Demario Davis did kind of hurt since he had kind of a good season, but they didn't want to pay him. Darren Lee is has so far been a fast linebacker, but that's not always a good thing. They do have a couple other players that I did like to see, but otherwise, they did sign Avery Williamson. I don't know how he'll do, but from what I heard, he's been all right for the Jets, and I think that was one of the reasons why I didn't put him in this list. And last but not least, I have the Arizona Cardinals. Deone Buchanan's a great linebacker. He made a good position switch, but it's the rest of the position. Reddick, they're hoping he can improve. I think they have a couple other linebackers, but who knows how they'll do. And of course, number one is the Indianapolis Colts. My biggest problem with the Colts is just that you don't know who the starters are and you don't know how they're going to do. Right now, their best linebacker is a rookie that they drafted in the second round, Darius Leonard, who so far I've heard some positive things, but again, I'm not counting rookies. I'm not counting them just yet. The rest of them is pretty mixed. You either got some good, some bad. It's going to be pretty interesting to see all these linebackers that are being thrown in. I wouldn't be surprised if they try and trade. They try and throw some trades just to try and make it look better. I could definitely see John Simon probably being thrown at linebacker, but again, this is probably more of a 4-3 look. So seeing this from the Colts, this is a very very weak linebacker system, but What are you going to do? They're just, hopefully the young players that they have do step up. Otherwise, it's going to be very problematic. Now, the 5 best, well, more like 6 best, because I do have a couple ties in here. It's going to be pretty interesting to see. So starting off, tie for 5th is between the Seattle Seahawks and Minnesota Vikings. Both of them are pretty much the same. They got a stud Mike linebacker and a very good outside linebacker to pair him up with. Bobby Wagner is one of my favorite inside linebackers. He's top 3 without a doubt. One thing I did like about Bobby Wagner, I think right now he's the only one that will probably hold his defense up, and if he's ever gone, that's when the defense is going to struggle. I don't see him getting traded unless he demands for a trade. He's a very good linebacker, and I'm really proud of him. And of course, KJ Wright, another talented linebacker. I think he was like either 3rd or 4th round pick or later. And he's a very good linebacker, a very good outside linebacker who can run sideline to sideline, can cover well. And of course, they're still trying to figure out that pesky last one. From what I'm hearing, it's probably going to be Shaquem Griffin, who's doing pretty well. But again, I don't really count rookies, but Wagner and Wright are good enough to really pair together. And of course, I also throw the Vikings in here because if I let the Vikings off, I'm pretty sure I was going to get a ton of hate mail. But the Vikings linebackers are very good. Kendricks has done very well. I had a feeling he was going to do pretty well when I was looking at the 2015 draft, and the Vikings definitely got the better end of the deal when they took him in the 2nd round. And of course, Anthony Barr, the teammate, I saw him as a pure edge rusher coming out in 2014, but he's done well enough as an outside linebacker. I know that they're also kind of looking for that pesky other linebacker. I think they got a couple players they do want to try and fit right there. I know some Vikings fans are probably going to be in the comments saying, we have this guy, they should be higher up the list. Well, once you find that 3rd linebacker spot, you have it, then you'll have me, and definitely you'll go up the list. Number 4 and number 3 are pretty much tied, and of course, they're from the NFC South, and you have the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Bucks tied together. And they both have really good linebackers. You have your star linebacker. The Bucks have Levante David. The Falcons have Debo Jones. I really like Jones. Was definitely kind of a big surprise. I thought he was just, kind of a pretty undersized linebacker, but he's functioned very well. Very good pass coverage, and he's kind of really set the norm on that you have to have a very athletic and very mobile inside linebacker. And despite his size, he's done very well of shedding blocks and doing incredibly well. I'm very impressed by Jones. And of course, the Bucks have Levante David. He's not inside linebacker; he's an outside linebacker, mostly playing weak side, and he does a great job. Very sneaky pass coverage. Very good at runs, at playing a run. He's a very talented linebacker. Probably wouldn't have it any other way. And of course, they got good complement players that do their role well. The Falcons have Devore Campbell, and the Bucks have Kendall Beckwith. Both those guys are steady contributors. They do very well pairing them up. I'm sorry, not Kendall Beckwith for the Bucks. Quan Alexander. Both those guys do very well, very fast, athletic. You do want them to see you do a little better, but they're doing well enough for the job they have. And of course, their 3rd linebacker, who's probably going to be the rising starter, you have for the Bucks Kendall Beckwith, and the Falcons having Duke Riley. Both those guys are going to are probably going to be upgraded as starter, and you'll definitely see those 3 linebackers for both teams doing incredibly well. And fun fact, both those teams have 2 LSU linebackers. Who knew? At number 2, I have the Carolina Panthers. How about that? 3 out of the 4 NFC South teams have dangerous linebacking cores. Linebackers. Of course, Carolina has the best middle linebacker in the NFL today. Fight me. And Luke Kuechly, he's the heart and soul of that defense. He does incredibly well. I think he is a face of franchise. Not Cam Newton, Luke Kuechly. He's a very good linebacker, can play the run well, and incredibly intelligent. I love watching Kuechly. He's a great linebacker, very passionate, very competitive. I think, in my opinion, he's the model linebacker now. He he's just very dangerous. And of course, your outside linebackers being Thomas Davis, who unfortunately this is probably his final year. And if I were to ever do this list again, unfortunately I would have to put Carolina down because they are losing Thomas Davis. Coming back from 2 torn ACLs is very impressive. He still retains that speed. He's also a very intelligent linebacker. Can run sideline to sideline. Upon this hits his final year, I did enjoy watching him play, and hopefully he has a great retirement. And our other outside linebacker is Shaq Thompson. While I do wish he could step up better, he's doing fine for what he's doing. Although he's now going to be expected to carry a much bigger load, and all eyes will be on him. Alright, and of course, let me give you my honorable mentions. I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have a very good linebacker. They do have good linebackers with Telvin Smith and Miles Jack. But I thought Seattle's as well as Minnesota's were just slightly better than Jacksonville's. Texans also have very good linebackers with Clowney, McKinney, and Cunningham. They're good, but not that good. The Eagles also have a good linebackers, but Hicks is coming off a ruptured Achilles tendon, and Nigel Brown is probably the only good linebacker. I think they have another linebacker that they're trying to test out, but that's kind of a position battle right there. Chargers also have pretty good linebackers with Perryman and Jatavius Brown. I think they have a couple others that I'm probably missing, but otherwise they're primarily above average. And of course, the Bears. If Roquan Smith does exceptionally well, I would have to place him in there. But of course, I don't count rookies. Trevathan does pretty well, and of course, Leonard Floyd's also. Well, okay, I won't count Leonard Floyd, but Bears do deserve a mention. And number 1, my best linebacking core is the Denver Broncos. I find them they still have a great linebacking core. I'm very well impressed with Brandon Marshall as well as Todd Davis. Both those linebackers, you got one linebacker who excels better in pass coverage and one who excels better in run coverage. I do kind of slightly count Von Miller as a pass rusher. But I really enjoy this Denver defense, and the linebackers do help a lot. I'm really impressed to see what they have done and what they will do. I wish it was a little more athletic, kind of like how Carolina's was. And if you think Carolina and Denver should be switched, I don't blame you. But I'm very impressed with Denver's defense, and that's why. And it does start with their linebackers. They're very talented, and that's why they're my number 1. And this will conclude the podcast. I mean, what'd you think? And what would you like me to talk about next time? Make sure in the comments below. When I talk to you next time, preseason will essentially be over. We're going to have the rosters will be trimming down, going from 90 to 53. And until then, catch you later.